Aloha, what's up everybody? Welcome to today's Friday live stream. We have a new schedule now, or we have a schedule. We didn't used to have a schedule, but now we have a schedule, and every Friday at 4:45 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I'm going to be here for all of you. Every Friday, we're talking about Ancient Oblivion and the Plasma Apocalypse. Ancient Oblivion are those things that are considered forgotten or lost history through the perspective of my own research as I share it with you. And we're going to be talking about that and the Plasma Apocalypse, either advanced or for beginners. Okay, so today is going to be more of an advanced course on the Plasma Apocalypse. I'm going to catch everybody up. All of the pictures you see on my left and my right, these will make sense as the presentation moves forward. We're going to be talking about the Christ versus the Antichrist, non-religious. Okay, this is going to be through the perspective of the Plasma Apocalypse lens, through the Plasma Apocalypse theory, because that's what we're going to be talking about. I do have the chat right in the middle of my screen. I can see everybody who types in my name. It highlights over here on my side. This is going to be a semi laid back portion, but I do have a lot of things I'm going to cover and recover and uncover and discover time and time again. And we're going to keep on doing that because repetition helps us to remember. Also, images help us to remember. That's why I have so many flashy, blinky, awesome, neon, wonderful lights and pictures and stuff, things that I resonate with. And if you do too, then all the more power to you. So happy Friday to everybody who's watching live. Happy future to everybody watching in the future. Let's kick things off by laying a foundation for what today's topic is, for what we're going to be talking about today. The topic is the Christ versus the Antichrist. In reality, it is the time at the end of a cycle, at the end of an age, which I believe that the signs and the omens are indicating to me that we are coming up on that time, okay? And it is a time when the negative energy, when the bad energy, when the false energy, when the false light will meet with the true energy, the good energy, the good vibes, the good light. And the good light will say good night to the bad light, basically. So we've got these two different lights that are talked about. Specifically, I'll be referencing the Bible a lot. So let's kick things off with a quote from the Bible. This comes from 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 8 through 10. And it says, this is a prophecy or a prediction about the future. Also, I just want to say, like, the word prediction didn't used to mean like a guess about the future. It means like this is going to happen in the future, right? Because it's happened over and over in the past, so much so that we can rely upon it happening again. We know it's going to happen again. And it says, and then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish because they did not receive the love of the truth, that they might be saved. So I know I said earlier, this is not religious. So keep in mind, I quote all of the different religious works and scriptures and writings and stuff because I see value. I recognize value in all of them, and they're all lovely for me to behold. So I use them and I reference them all of the time. But the Bible's where I started off in life on my little truth-seeking grown-up journey. Or what they call grown-up. I'm not really a grown-up. I'm like a tiny little kid in a grown-up body. But anyways, so what you're going to see here is on this side of the screen over here, all of these images, including the little background picture of the blue circle or dome or whatever you want to call it, these will represent the false God or the false light or the Antichrist. This is the side of the Antichrist over here, okay? And this side corresponds to the good, the Christ, the healer, the healing energy, right? This one is the light without substance. This one is the light that provides information and therefore programming. This one over here is the substance or the spiritual light, which heals the world, which heals the nations of the world, which brings us into a golden age, actually, which we talk about all of the time here on my channel. Let's see. Louis Martinez. Any chance on the book will be... All right, so I'm probably going to stay a bit out of the chat because I like to stay on the topic whenever we do these these types of live streams. Sometimes I'll do more laid back stuff, right? But I can't really answer side questions and stuff while we're doing like a big old presentation or whatever, because then it will last for 4 hours, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants to watch a 4-hour video or a 6-hour video or a 10-hour video all in one sitting, at least, and definitely not during a live stream. So I want to try to keep it smooth and clear and concise. So if you'd like to stay on topic and you really would like to get my attention, go for it. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to continue on. All right, so I want to break down this verse that I just read to you. So it says the lawless one will be revealed. That means that there is a source behind all of the negativity that's in our world, or the negative programming that's in our world, right? Light is a form of programming. Light carries with it information, and we are all receivers here in this world. We receive information all of the time in the form of we absorb it. Okay, so we absorb it through the eyes. Specifically, the light enters the body through the eyes. The eyes are the window to the soul. And that's why I talk about plasma possession so often. When the red light from above, which typically that red light from wrapping around our world, that red light from above, or the plasma sphere wrapped around our world, that light comes in through the firmament above, and it comes down and it spreads out and redirects after the focal point, and that's what we call daytime. That daylight is going around in circles, just like on a DVD player, and it has programs inside of it. It has information that's being shared. Alien Guru, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So when it says the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth. So we're talking about good versus evil, right? Now, the lawless one, it says, the coming of the lawless one is according to the workings of Satan. That Satan, or Santa Claus, Satan, Santa's Claus, all that type of stuff, represented by the red color, the red spectrum, that light comes down from above, okay? So that light, or that programming, that energy comes down from above, hits a focal point, is redirected, and then it goes around our world and gives us what we call daytime. And typically those things that come down from above are considered to be fallen, right? They are descending. And this is, I'm speaking in generalities. I'm speaking sort of in a roundabout vagueness, but in general, that energy that comes down to us has a more negative connotation to it, okay? It tends to be responsible for the negative qualities and the baser qualities that we experience here in our world today, okay? Now, the reciprocal of that, or the inverse of that, is the light that ascends, the light that goes up, the terrestrial light, the inner earth light that shoots up, and it continues going up because it is advancing steadily upward, and it brings with it and shares with the world the opposite qualities of kindness and peace and gentleness and loveness and consideration and understanding, right? So these are the two sides that we're dealing with, right? We have the light that goes up and the light that comes down. Now, just keep in mind, I may have mixed up some of these. Okay, I don't know if they're all perfect or not, but these ones typically will represent like the good or whatever. These ones are the bad. But you know, sometimes this side the light might go down or up or whatever. But just keep that in mind. Now, they are both blue in color, which is what we're going to talk about. Right now, we have sunlight. Sunlight, or daytime, is the light that is coming down towards us. And it is blue in color, at least today. It didn't used to be. It used to be more of a red spectrum, a yellow spectrum, an orange, and then red. If you go further back in time, the sunlight is changing. The color of our color spectrum that we get from the light of the sun, or from the focal point, or the light that's spinning around up there above us. That is what is responsible for giving us all of our spectrum of colors. Our color spectrum is based on the light source that causes it, right? So when that light source changes color, it also has an effect on the colors that we experience in this world. The closer that sunlight gets to white, then the more broad of a color spectrum we'll have. If you noticed over the years, like Crayola crayons, they have they have to come up with all of these various different brand new names for all of these different colors that seem like they're just being found or invented all of the time over the decades, right? At first, it was very simple. It was like red, orange, yellow, blue, violet, green, and there was like 7 colors. Now there's like 50 colors or something. I don't know. I'm totally guessing. You know what I mean? But it's because of the color spectrum that is changing. If we go back further in time, we had less and less colors because the spectrum was smaller and smaller and smaller because the light source was a different color. It wasn't white that contained all of those colors. Pardon me. But, and also, I'm sorry if I seem distracted. It's just like for this live stream, I've got so many different things on my computer screen, and I'm also like, cycling through the different topics that I want to talk about. And I also want to explain all these pictures and stuff, which we're going to, so hold on. It's a wild ride. So here's what happens. There are 2 cycles of the apocalypse. Okay. There are alternating cycles. Many people are aware of this, that there is a destruction by water. There's the Great Flood. And many people, especially those who started their truth-seeking journey in religion, they've come across the deluge myths, the legends of the Great Flood that wiped the world clean. And that was an apocalyptic cycle. That was a part of the plasma apocalypse. So one by water and the next one by fire, right? The fire from the sky, the fire in the sky, the fire from the sky, the fire from the gods, the heavenly fire, the cosmic fire, which is the plasma that comes down into our world. And because the oceans are removed at that time, because this happens during the depressurization of our atmosphere, which increases buoyancy so suddenly and so much that things float up into the sky. And because the atmosphere is depressurizing, it also causes a sort of whirlwind that the winds suck everything up into the sky that's floating, including and especially water. Right? Anything that's not tied down or enclosed and stuck on the earth, it's going to get sucked up into the sky. So we have 2 cycles. We have the cycle by water and the cycle that is by fire. My research indicates so far as of this video today that we have the last one that we went through was the water one. Now, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out because the water is still here. Right? We still have the oceans. The flood is still here. It's just that we just slapped a label on it. We slapped a name on it and we said, oh, that's the ocean. As if it's just, who cares where it came from? Who cares how it was created? Who cares that it's strange that we have a world that is inundated and flooded with water all over the place, right? Where does it come from? Modern academics doesn't seem to do a very good job of explaining where water comes from in their model where, grains of rock and dust and dirt and debris or whatever all smash into each other and then somehow there's water. You know what I mean? It doesn't make a lot of sense. That water comes from somewhere. And I talk about where that water comes from quite often. And it's a reasonable, rational theory as to where the flood waters of the world comes from. But that's how you know that the water one was the last one. I believe that the water apocalypse comes during the winter solstice. I also think that the solstices are when we experience the apocalypse. Specifically, not just the cataclysm. Cataclysms can happen at various times. But the apocalypse, and when I reference the apocalypse, what I mean by the apocalypse is the uncovering. We have a cover over our world right now. Okay? In the ancient world, they often referred to it affectionately as the firmament because it is firm, it is solid, it is strong, it is a container that keeps our world pressurized, right? When that container is removed, then our world is uncovered, which is literally what apocalypse means. So that's what I'm referring to right now, not just any old, Mount St. Helens erupting or, any type of cataclysm. I'm talking about a worldwide depressurization event of our sky, our covering being removed, causing an apocalyptic event. So the last one happened during the winter solstice, right? And that's whenever the waters flooded in. The good news is that is the worst one. Okay, my research indicates that the flooding is very difficult to survive. It lasts a lot longer. Okay, so it's a much longer apocalyptic cycle. And so you have to endure it for a lot longer. So it's not my preference personally to go through the flood apocalypse. Thankfully, it's already done. Now, after that, we have a much quicker apocalyptic cycle, which is the summertime, which is where we are now, right? When you already have the oceans, you can expect that the next one will come by fire. The water will be removed. Our world will be transformed into a desert world / a tropical world, okay? And that happens during the summertime solstice. The apocalypse always happens during a solstice. Now, I also want to throw this out there for people who are new. Keep in mind the solstices change. Our seasons change. Every time we go through an apocalyptic event, we have to change the calendars that we use. We cannot use the old calendars and the old way and the old system, because the way that we keep record of time and how time passes and how we experience time, being through two main avenues. One is by the heavenly luminaries, right? The heavenly luminaries will shift, they will change, and therefore our seasons will shift and change. So we cannot go by the exact same calendar that we used to use. And when we consider our ancient oblivion and our ancient past, we also cannot go by the exact same calendars. We have to understand that there was a shift, which is why we have certain holidays that are on the equinoxes, right? Which used to be solstices as well. All right, so what happens during the summertime apocalypse? Well, during the wintertime apocalypse, the plasma that is wrapped around our world, okay, there are these tentacles of plasma, or tubes, I guess they're called in academics, these tubes of plasma that are swirling down and hitting the firmament, wrapping around it, and the light passes through the firmament, creating what we call the sun, or the focal point, giving us daylight when the light is coming down, right? And during the wintertime apocalypse, that's whenever that tube actually gets wider and wider and wider until it goes into flux. And when it gets wider and wider and wider, that means that what we call the sun, or that focal point, or daylight, will get cooler and colder, which leads us into Fimbulwinter, or the Great Winter, right? Which is the opposite of the summertime apocalypse, right? Both of these apocalyptic cycles, once they're done, will take us into a great summer, okay? A super long summer, a never-ending summer, because it will be temperate weather for years and years and years to come. So that is the winter apocalypse, whenever that tube expands until it goes into flux, right? In which case, eventually the sun would just disappear, the moon would go dark, and the stars would go dark, etc. But the opposite of that is what happens the next time around, whenever it actually, for us, okay, because it's different underneath us in the underworld, but that tube of plasma shrinks, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, becomes more and more focused, which means that it has an adverse effect, a corresponding effect, on the heavenly luminaries, which means that our sun, instead of expanding and becoming huge and red and gigantic and not as hot, and we don't get a winter time, it means it becomes really hot. As you can see here, this is a really good example of how the color spectrum changes as the heat increases in the light source from a red sun all the way across to a blue one. And that's what we're discussing today. So this blue sun is the Antichrist. It is the light that is opposite of the light of life, okay? This blue sun is the color that our sun is now turning into. If you look this up, you will find that academics is starting to throw it out there on occasion in different places that the sun has a little bit of blue in it now. It didn't used to be that way when I was a child, and I know it was not that way during the time of my grandparents and great-grandparents, and even further back in time. The further back in time we go, I have found evidence that the sun was more red spectrum. The further forward in time we go, the sun is more of a blue spectrum, which means it is getting hotter and more focused, which means it should also appear a little bit smaller in the sky than it used to be, as well as the moon, as well as the stars, as well as the other luminaries that are up there, that are produced by their mother or their parent figure, which is the plasma that wraps around our world. How's everybody doing? All right, cool. All right, so now let's get back to the summertime apocalypse. Okay, so the one that we can expect, the one that is coming up next, is the summertime or the summer solstice apocalypse. Okay, now when calculating when the solstice is the time of the year when the sun seems to stop advancing northward for the northern hemisphere. Okay, so for those of us who are experiencing summertime in the northern hemisphere, it's the time whenever the sun gets as far as it can go until it hits the tropic. Okay, so there's two different tropics, and whenever it hits the northern tropic, that's its limitation typically when everything is normal, when the world is not in flux and when our energy is not in flux, right? But whenever we're headed towards into an apocalyptic cycle, it will transgress, which means it will sin, it will do evil, it will do wrong, it will do something that it's not supposed to do. It will break the rules and it will cross a boundary, which is that northern tropic circle around our world. And if it does that, this is why our ancient ancestors kept a clear and concise record of where the sun was and also where the moon is and stuff, but specifically the sun, because it's the easiest one to track, where the sun is in the sky at any given point during the year, but especially during the solstices. And this is why you have so many ancient buildings that are lined up with the summertime solstice or with the wintertime solstice, because they needed to know if this was the year that it was going to happen. If it transgressed and it did not line up, then they needed to get ready. They needed to prepare, because they knew that that heavenly light, which is the false light, was transgressing, or it was sinning. It was becoming bad. It was doing a bad thing. It was breaking the rules. It was breaking the norm, which means that it also has an effect on the people. The people during that time also start to transgress and break the norms and go into flux, etc. As above, so below. It has an effect on us as well. And it's not because of the people that this happens. I also want to point that out. Okay, we are just a byproduct. We're sharing in the same energy that our world and our home is going through. All right, cool. Let's see. Let me jump in the chat real quick, see what's going on. Sage of Sidon loves Fridays. Sweet, right on. All right, cool. I'm just going to continue on. All right, so it says the lawless one will be revealed. Okay. So right now, the lawless one is not revealed. Right now, it's wearing a mask, you could say, which is the sun. Okay, you can't really see the sun because there's so much light coming from it that you're blinded to its true form, or to what it really looks like. Okay, so it's hidden in light. The sun itself is hidden in light. Okay, you could say. All right, now let's see. It says the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth. Now, when it references the Lord, we're going to be talking about the Christ, okay? The Christ figure. And that figure is the blue beam of terrestrial light that comes up out of the mouth of Mount Meru, out of the plasma volcano at the top of the world. And it rests on the throne of the world. It is not a wanderer. It is always, we can rely upon it to always be in the same spot. Cake Town! Hey, thanks, Cake Town. Super appreciate you. So that true light, this one over here, is always found in the same spot, at the center, at the heart. It's the heart energy of our world. This one is a wanderer. This one goes around in circles, you know what I mean? They're just kind of like going crazy. And the people respond to these two different light sources, one that is reliable and always found in the same spot, and one that is wandering and traveling about and nomadic in nature, right? But when our sun transgresses that northerly tropic, it will spiral. It'll start spiraling inwards, exactly how you see the magnetic north. You know how, like, if you keep track of like how the magnetic north is constantly moving, especially over the last few decades, it's like increasing exponentially in speed as it goes, and it's going to circle around. Okay, so it's going to actually, if it hasn't already, I think it already has passed like the true north or whatnot. But if it passes it, watch, it's going to come back, because it's going to spiral until it settles right in the middle. And once it settles, the magnetic north, once it settles right in the middle, that's whenever we have our SummerSlam. Okay, so let's talk about, well, let me finish reading this Bible verse. Whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth. So what happens is that our sun starts turning blue. It gets hotter and hotter and hotter, and that's because the plasma above in the plasma sphere is getting more focused and more focused and more focused because it's about to go into flux, okay? The opposite cycle is whenever it gets wider and wider and wider, and it goes into flux. The world underneath us, it is getting wider and wider and wider, and they're probably already in their Fimbulvinter season right now. They're probably already going through a red sun. You know, they're all talking about Nibiru in the sky and how it's coming back, and you know, they're getting ready for wars and rumors of wars, and it's getting wintertime and stuff, while we now are experiencing the opposite. We are experiencing the sun becoming more and more focused, which means that, like, for example, the moon. They say the moon is getting further and further away now. It's actually leaving the earth. It's not. It's just getting smaller and smaller because it's a light in the sky. And it's getting brighter and brighter because it's getting focused and more focused and more focused. So it will appear like it's actually getting further away if you have that, that cosmology ingrained into your system. Orphic Metamorphic. Hey, thanks for gifting the membership to people in the chat. That was really kind. All right, cool. So the lawless one, which is the sunlight, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth. Now, that blue sun, it's going to get more and more blue as it gets hotter and hotter and hotter, as will the moon, okay? It will transgress the tropic. It will start spiraling its way towards the North Pole, where it will finally come to a rest, right? Because that the plasma above will get smaller and smaller and smaller until finally it will be a blue beam of daylight that shines straight down, and it will look just like this in the sky, okay? Until eventually it will be so small, it will be like a laser, and if you were to look up at the sun, the center portion of it will be dark, and it will only be a ring of blue light, okay? And it will come to a rest at the true north, at the middle of our world. And people from far away will be able to see daytime up towards the north as the sun is further north at that time. And it will actually be at true north, right? And that false blue light, or that blue cosmic light from above, that blue, that focused daytime, will act like a laser. It will burn the earth as it spirals around. It's burning the earth right now. It's just not, it's not to such a degree that people are freaking out and staying inside and not going outside. I mean, some people might be, but it will get to that point, which is why you'll see references to those types of movies and pop culture on these pictures that are popping up right now. Okay. So the sunlight will start getting so hot, it will turn blue. It will start getting so hot and so focused that it will start burning things in a spiral all the way until it gets to Oz. It will create yellow brick road, or, you know, it'll burn sand and all kinds of stuff as it goes, as it gets much hotter. And this will happen fairly quickly. Unfortunately, it's happening now, and people don't realize it because we're being so accustomed to thinking that the sun is orange or that the sun is red or yellow, and it's not, okay? Talk about this. Bring it to people's attention. The sun is whitish blue, okay? The sun is whitish blue right now. And every time they show us pictures of the sun, or alleged pictures of the sun, they show us the sun being red or blue, red or orange in color, yellow in color, and it is not, okay? They're conditioning your mind to reject the reality that your eyes tell you, which is that the sun is white right now with a little bit of blue, and eventually it's going to start turning more and more blue, right? And other things will start happening too, because energetically we're all going into flux. Humanity's going into flux. The earth is going into flux. The energy is going into flux. The core, or the inside of the earth, is going into flux. The atmosphere is going into flux. And that's why we're going to start seeing so many strange and different anomalies. We live in strange times right now, and they're only going to get stranger. You'll see stranger things than these, I promise. That's interesting. We're going to come up to this god here in just a minute. All right, so the sun turns blue. It gets hotter and hotter. Now, the plasma above, which is responsible for what we call daytime, when it shrinks, when it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, that means our amount of daylight that we have in a day also shrinks. It corresponds to the shrinking from above. So our daylight, you can imagine, is like a flashlight, right? The light from a flashlight, the point where it comes from would be the sun, But whenever you focus that flashlight, our daylight shrinks and it gets smaller and smaller. So the days that we experience, or the amount of time in a day, shrinks, and our days start passing by faster and faster and faster. We have less daylight to get things done, less time in the day during the daytime, and that affects people. Many people start becoming night owls. Many people's internal clocks start being thrown off and getting messed up and stuff. And so the days will be shortened. And this was also mentioned in the Bible as a prophecy by Jesus when his disciples and his followers were asking him. He's telling you, like, hey, the world is going to come to an end as you know it. Okay. The apocalypse will come. I promise you this. And they believed him, and they said, Lord, what are the signs? What are the signs that this is going to happen? And he gave them many different signs. One of those was that the days themselves would shorten. The amount of time in a day, or the amount of daylight that we experience, would be less and less and less as that blue sun, or as the Hopi call it, that blue star Kachina, starts to appear, as the sun starts to turn blue as it gets hotter and hotter. Now, when it gets hotter and hotter, it's also going to create extremes. Extreme hot followed by extreme cold. And that has to do with like the trail of heat that it is leaving up there, and how the cold has to like flood in to replace it. So you get extreme cold and extreme hot, which we start seeing in our weather patterns, which you can see now, actually, if you pay attention. But it's going to get worse. It's going to become more extreme, and it's going to get hotter and hotter, and mainstream academics is going to have to come up with stories and excuses as to why this is happening. And then, of course, they will use those stories for their benefit to keep control over the people up until the point where they depart, up until the time when they leave this place, because they don't want the population to get in their way when they're trying to escape the world. Hey, thanks again, Orphic Metamorphic. That's pretty awesome. I appreciate you. All right, so let me finish this. It says, the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth. So when that blue daylight is focused and it rests at Mount Meru. Mount Meru is a plasma volcano. It is the Rupus Negra, the black, high and lofty cliff that is created from all of that terrestrial, powerful electromagnetic plasma that is shooting up. It actually pulls the earth up with it, creating a black tower, a magnetic black tower that rises up out of the ocean at the true north. Okay. And that's where the terrestrial light will eventually come up out of, because that's what creates that mountain, right? And that terrestrial light is the Christ light, and it creates this type of a shape over time. Okay, so you got that main beam, and then you also have like the anode and cathode arch on either side of it, and then it goes back over and sort of looks like it's holding on to another inverted dome above us. I don't want to get too technical about it, but anyways, that is the seat of God. Symbolically speaking. Okay, that is the throne of this earth. That is the seat, that is the place where the light rests, because it does not move. It stays there. That is the house, that is the temple, that is the throne of the light of the world. And right now, the light of the world is not sitting on that throne. It's under that throne. It's now charging inside of our world right now. So there's going to be this wannabe that's circling around and getting a little closer and a little closer, and it's going to start trying to change form and it's going to try to look like the true blue beam, but it will not be, right? So that's the sunlight. That's the daytime. That's turning more blue and more blue and more blue. And there's various examples of that. Oh, the fall of Phaethon. I want to talk about the fall of Phaethon next too. So anyways, the sun will rest above Mount Meru, that beam of hot blue light that is burning a trail behind it, right, will force people into their homes during the daytime. Okay, it will become unbearable, and it will set things on fire. Actually, I think it's already setting things on fire. If you look around the world, you will see that we are regularly getting wildfires all over the place. Huge, gigantic wildfires, and they say that people are causing them from throwing their cigarettes out of the window from matches and stuff like that. I disagree. I don't think so. I don't see a lot of evidence for that, especially considering how they're all popping up at the exact same time, hundreds of miles apart from one another, the world across. No, I don't think that it's just people camping and they forgot to put out their campfire. I'm not convinced by that. I'm more inclined to believe that the sun is getting hotter and that things are combusting and they're starting to catch on fire as the sun turns blue and it makes its way north. All right, so the sun will make its way north. It will start to turn blue. It will go to what we would consider, what the Hopi consider to be the plaza of our world, or the main street of our world, the main avenue, the main place, the central place of our world. And it will stop and it will rest above it as that daylight goes straight down and hits Mount Meru, trying to invade the inner earth. It goes down into the inner earth and it is seen as an abomination. This abomination is something that pretends to be the Christ light, but it is not the Christ light. It only looks like it in appearance, right? It is actually devastating and it causes desolation. This is in the Bible. There was a prophet named Daniel hundreds of years ago who talked about an abomination that would cause desolation, that would sit in a holy place or in the throne of God and declare itself to be God. And this is the story. This is a cartoonified story form that we're watching, that we're interpreting through our own perception filters and our own experiences in life. Every culture, every individual, we will all see a slightly different story, but we will all watch the same thing unfold. So we have a false light that circles around, it starts changing color, and it takes off its mask, which is all of the brightness and all of the light and stuff. And all you see is a ring of blue light once it rests right above. Okay, so it's kind of like a face, this is the blue star Kachina in the Hopi prophecy that talks about how the blue star Kachina will dance in the plaza and it will remove its mask. That's whenever it removes all of that bright white sunlight and stuff like that, and all you see, because the light above has contracted so much that the daylight is just going straight down like a laser beam. Now, this is a little harder to explain, but on the firmament at the very top, directly above Mount Meru, if you were to go all the way to the top, to the very top of the ceiling of our world, it is not a complete dome. At the very top, there is actually, at the top of this dome like that, there is another dome that is inverted from our larger sky dome, okay? And that is created through the electromagnetics and what happens. It's hard to explain right now. And I wish I should have drawn a picture of that. But anyways, there's an inverted mini dome at the very top. Okay. And it's responsible for projecting lights and stuff into our sky and giving us the moon and stuff like that. So once the plasma that is hitting our sky dome gets so small that it only hits the mini dome that is at the very top, then all you will see is a circle where it goes straight down, where that light goes straight down. And that will be the false blue beam. And that's why you'll only see the ring of it. You'll only see an eclipse. You'll only see the outside portion of it because that's the only part where the light can travel straight. That's the only place where it can travel straight any longer. If it hits any other part and that light hits at any other angle and refracts, you won't see that light, which is why the blue sun will remove its mask and it will have a black face, which is the exact shape on this side over here on the Antichrist side. You've seen this Aztec god named Huitzilopochtli, and he is a blue god that represents the sun, and his face is black. He always has like a black face and the rest of him is blue. He represents that blue star, or that blue star Kachina, that rests in the plaza, that stays and stands in the holy place as an abomination, looking like it is the blue beam or the blue bird or the blue beam of happiness, or however you want to call it, right? The true blue beam versus the false beam, the Antichrist. Now, let me finish this Bible quote. It says the lawless one will be revealed, which is what we're doing right now, but it will actually be physically revealed in the future. Whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth. So you'll have the false light resting in the place right above and touching the throne of God, which is Mount Meru. Now, the terrestrial light will actually come up once this is all a part of an electromagnetic reversal that we're going through. Once that reversal is complete, you will see the true blue light fight or appear to fight and vanquish that false daylight, that false blue daylight that's really hot and stuff, as the terrestrial light takes its true spot and its rightful place on the throne as the king of the world. Okay, and as the savior and as the Messiah type figure and stuff like that, filling our world with ionized oxygen once more. And it's not going to burn anything, right? If anything, I feel like it might be cold plasma, which is tolerable to the skin. You can touch it, you can be inside of it and stuff. And it would have really good qualities that it will share with us. So like extending our lifespans, super fast healing abilities and regeneration and stuff like that as well, right? So there is a SummerSlam, there's a SmackDown, there's a WrestleMania event. I don't know how to describe it, but it is where the Antichrist tries to sit in the throne of the terrestrial light. The terrestrial light, once the electromagnetics reverse, it comes out and it says, no, I don't think so, get out of here. And it dispels that false, super hot daylight, right? Now, you'll see images over here that show you, sometimes they symbolize this stuff and it doesn't show you like the blue daylight. Sometimes it does, but sometimes they show you like follow the sun, which means, you need to follow this. The sun is on its way north to Mount Meru. So following the sun is what this is a reference to, right? Following the sun, staying out of the daylight, only being awake at nighttime because that's when everything's not burning and catching on fire and stuff. This is why we have one apocalypse that is by water and the other one is by fire. The actual fire and stuff catching fire and burning and stuff doesn't mostly come from plasma that comes down from above or electricity, which it can. That stuff will set things on fire, but the majority of the fires worldwide, especially in the northern hemisphere, are going to be caused by the sun itself when it gets really hot. Hey, what's up? Thanks, Mary Cronin. Says True Blue. Thanks for your work. You're super welcome. And Joe Cool says, thanks again, everyone, for spending time here in the chat with Jay. Right on. All right, so this Bible verse says, the lawless one will be revealed, right? Whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth. That breath, the breath of the world breathes, okay? The inner earth depressurizes all the time, okay? The surface world does not depressurize all the time. We depressurize every other cycle, every other age, but underneath us, they depressurize all the time, and it leads to little cataclysms and stuff that we experience up here on the surface. But we receive all of the pressure that they have just let go of down inside of the earth, right? And it builds up until finally the sky pops and it pops open. Oh, there's a song called I'll Follow the Sun. Oh, that's cool. I'm going to have to check that out. Thanks for sharing that. And thanks for your support. All right. So, where the earth breathes, it breathes out of all of the cavernous systems that reach down into it. Okay. So like, for example, here in Colorado and many different places around the world, they have caves that are called Cave of the Winds or, different variations of that. But everybody knows that there's wind inside of vast cavernous systems because the earth is breathing. The earth breathes out and then it'll suck some back in. It'll breathe back out or whatever. That place where it breathes out the most is the largest opening, which is Mount Meru, which creates what's called a zephyr. And a zephyr is a terrestrial wind that shoots up out of the earth as the earth breathes out, depressurizing. Well, the inside is depressurizing. And it lets all that out and it breathes. Okay. So you have this constant flow up right around the middle of the world, which gives us what we call today, when you watch the Weather Channel and stuff, and they talk about how there's a polar vortex or whatever, that's what causes it. That's what causes the polar vortex is the wind and the breath or the air or whatever that is being dispelled from the inner earth cavernous systems. Okay. So it says, that the Lord, or that blue beam over here on this side, will consume this lawless one over here with the breath of his mouth, or the breath of the opening, right? That energy, that spirit that comes out, and it looks like it destroys that blue daylight, that burning blue daylight. When in reality, it's not really destroying it; it's just replacing it because we're the electromagnetic shift is complete, right? The circle is complete. The Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his coming. So this over here is not just wind and stuff, but whenever the electromagnetic shift is complete, the terrestrial energy in the form of light and plasma will burst out of various inner earth systems, especially volcanoes and large cavernous systems and stuff. And you will see this. You will see a blue light, a sword, Excalibur. It's the sword that is stuck in the stone that it cannot be removed, right? Until the next apocalyptic cycle. And it says, will destroy the lawless one with the brightness of his coming. That's because whenever this happens, there is a bright light that shoots up. It's a dark light, being that it's a neon light, but it is a light nonetheless. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan with all power, signs, and lying wonders. That is because that is energy right out there from the red plasma that is just outside of our sky, and it feeds us all of the time. And that red plasma has a program to it. It has a purpose to it. Okay, it is waiting. It is waiting to ground itself and to come in here because it's a cleanup crew. Basically, that red plasma is a cleanup crew. And when it comes into our world and the sky depressurizes and blows open, and there is no electromagnetics to keep it out, it freely comes in to ground itself, to try to find a home within the earth itself, right? It descends, it falls down into the earth. And whenever it's in the form of just the light, that is just pure programming, right? It's just like code, like matrix code that's just falling in all around us, all over the place. And that's why it's the strongest influencer on the astrological charts. Okay, the sun itself is the strongest influencer, but that's also why the stars themselves are influencers. They influence the people because it's energy that is coming down into this world, and we absorb that energy because we are transmitters and receivers ourselves, right? Let's see. So that sunlight or whatever, and if you're like somebody that stares at the sun or whatever, please don't take it personally. I mean, do your thing. I'm not into that, but I'm not saying you're evil or, the spawn of Satan or anything like that. If you are a sun gazer or whatever, right? Do your thing. I'm just sharing my perspective and my research with you. Okay. And plus, there's vitamins or something that come out of sunlight. I don't know. I'm not a fan of all of that, but if you do that, I'm not slamming it. Okay. So don't take it personally. The coming of the lawless one is according to the workings of Satan with all powers, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth that they might be saved. Now, this is where there's a separation in the family, okay? We have those on this side, which represent most of the world right now. They represent those who have an energy signature that resonates with red plasma. And I'm just speaking in vague generalities right now. Okay, there's always anomalies and exceptions. You could call them the spawn of Satan or the offspring of Satan or whatever. Not the cartoonified evil pitchfork wielding devil, right? But just those who have a similar programming, right? Little echoes of the programming of the red plasma above, which its program is to cleanse. It's to destroy things. It cleanses by destruction. So it steals things. It takes things away. It destroys things. And it is seen as being very selfish and malevolent. But that's just from our perspective because, it's how we feel about it. If it's hurting us or harming us or not, basically. But then we also have the remnant of the blue beam or the good energy, the pure energy, the good vibe tribe, which is what I like to call them. All right, cool. So let's go to Christ and let's look up this word Christ. Now, Christos comes from the anointed. It means to be anointed. In Hebrew, it's called Mashiach. And the word anointed means it implies to be covered in something, specifically blood, or specifically something, not blood. Let me take that back. an anointing a long time ago was when, well, let me go all the way back to the beginning. That's a good place to start. Those who lived in the Garden of Eden were constantly anointed because that blue beam over here on this side would energize the atmosphere and all of the particles that are in the atmosphere, and it would rain down, or it would drop down what is called manna, which is like this gooey type of substance that the blue beam creates as a byproduct. Okay. It's very viscous. It's very liquid in nature until it hits the ground, and if left out, it'll just dry out into little wafers, and it'll get hard and look like little flakes on the mountain, frosted flakes, or Mountain Dew, which is two words. You know, that's why those products are called that. So if I'm acting weird, it's because I'm trying to, it's like when I do this type of presentation, it's like putting a puzzle together, right? I want to put the pieces together in the right way so that people can see the bigger picture unfolding. So where was I? Oh, anointed, the word Christ. Okay. So Christ means anointed. Anointed means to be covered in this manna. It means to be covered in this substance. Now, those who looked up at this, which was the plasma beam shooting up into the sky, branching out, and then there's an electrical arc at the bottom. Those who saw a godlike figure hanging on a tree or a cross or whatnot, they would feel these wet sprinkles that come down as a byproduct of the fluid, of one fluid interacting with another fluid, right? Highly charged fluid charging the other fluid around it, which is our atmosphere, and it would sprinkle down onto them this manna, and it would be on their skin, it would be all over the place. It would cause them to shine. They would glisten. They would be the shining ones. And they would not need to eat. They would not need any energy. They would not need to do anything to gain energy. They would not need to sleep or eat or do anything that we do today in a world that is severely lacking energy. The energy is being pulled into the earth because the earth is charging. Okay. But those who live up close to the blue beam, they were anointed. They were covered. Their skin was rubbed with, or was seen as being rubbed with, this glistening, shining, viscous-like liquid. Right? Now, that over time, once the blue beam retracted, as it does, when it retracted and it disappeared, the people continued to tell the story of this shiny, viscous liquid, this slippery liquid or whatever that some people had on them, and it gave them beneficial qualities, right? It benefited them. So they would try to replicate that by finding viscous liquids that are available, like oil. Different types of oil and other substances, but specifically oil, right? So the people tried to copy this, and they figured if they rubbed a viscous liquid on another person, that would be their form of anointing, and they would hope that, it would work, basically. And while oil does, have some beneficial properties to it, it is not the energized manna that falls from the sky. You see what I'm saying, right? So the people copied it because they heard the stories and they tried their best to emulate it so that they could ensure that the elect of their society lived the longest and were imbued with the goodness of God, because they want good leaders and stuff. So they would rub oil on their leaders and on, it doesn't have to be leaders, but it could just be for special occasions and stuff. And this oil cause the person to have a shine or a shimmer or a gleaming about them. So by extension, Christ also meant to shine, to glimmer, to have like a sort of shine to your skin or whatever, right? And it technically it comes from the Proto-Indo-European root word gray, which is probably close to the root for grail as well, or the rubbing of God, and it means to rub. So it implies to rub oil onto a person's skin, okay, for health benefits and other things. All right, cool. Let's see. Man, I don't know where I was going to go after that one. I have all kinds of stuff saved up. I did not plan to spend so much time on that particular Bible verse, but it kind of was cool to go over that. Let's see. Let me check my notes here real quick. Okay, so we talked about the solstices. We talked about how we've already gone through the water apocalypse because clearly we still have an ocean, right? We still have a flood. Our world is still flooded to this day. Okay. There's water everywhere, so we don't have to worry about it happening again, which is why, like, you know, people have asked me about the rainbow and God promising not to flood the world and stuff. That promise is true for the time being. You don't have to worry about it. It's not going to flood once more. Actually, the flood is going to be taken away. Those waters will be sucked up into the sky, and, you know, we will not have an ocean any longer. That will become an old wives' tale. That will be something that your great-great-great-grandchildren after the apocalypse will start to not even believe. They won't be able to believe that there is a such thing as an ocean of water that covered the whole world. You know what I mean? That'll be fantasy and fiction and fairy tales. And your normal stories about, you know, going to the beach and playing in the flooded waters of the world, right, will blow their minds, because, you know, they will also know that in the lakes and rivers and you know, large bodies of water that will exist in the future, there will be monsters in them, and they'll be like, wow, you were so brave to go play in that, you know, or whatever, which is, we still have monsters in them, so it's kind of weird. But anyways, oh, Phaethon. Let's talk about Phaethon. I do want to bring this up. Where is he? Okay, so hold on. Let me just I'm just going to type it in real quick. I'm going to tell you another story. All right, so in ancient Greek, there was a god known as Helios, which is where we get helium and Helion Prime if you watch the movies and the Chronicles of Riddick and stuff like that, right? Helios is the old name for the sun, or the focal point up there in our sky, right? Now, there is a legend that Helios used to drive this chariot of the sun steadily, on course, reliably, all of the time, right? But one day, the son of Helios, which is Phaethon, which means the shining one, which is also the sun, okay? This is just the sun acting different, is seen as the child of Helios. It's still Helios. It's just they don't want to attribute anything bad to Helios, so they change Helios's name, and they say that Helios had a son named Phaethon, or Phaeton, or it's just like photon. That's how you can remember it, okay? It's the exact same word, photon. So the sun changed. Now the story goes that Phaeton, or Phaeton, the shining one, was the son of Helios, and nobody believed him. So he went to his father one day, and he asked him if he could have a wish, or a boon, or a favor, right? And he said, whatever you want, anything in the world, you name it, kid, I'll give it to you. And he said, I want to ride the sun chariot. I want to drive the sun just for one day. I just want to ride it. And Helios is like, I mean, I'll let you, but it's super hard to do this job. I am pretty much the only one that can do this. So I highly recommend you don't pick that, because it's not going to end well. And Phaeton was like, no, that's it. Now that you said that, I really want to do it. Right? So Helios is like, okay, but, you know, don't say I didn't warn you. So he gives the sun chariot to his son Phaeton, or Photon. And basically, Phaeton is riding around the sun chariot to prove to all of his buddies that he really is the son of the sun god or whatever. And he messes it up. He gets out of control, which means that this cartoonified story is representing our actual sun, the physical, real sun or focal point that you see in the sky, going into flux and going off course, transgressing, right? Transgressing boundaries. So the story is that Phaeton started going up too high and down too low, and he would come down so low that he would scorch the earth. This is why I enjoy studying the myths and the legends of our ancient oblivion, of the breadcrumbs that have survived and have been passed down to us in the form of myths and legends and other stories and story form. Because this is a legendary historic account of something that has happened to that focal point that we call the sun, the skylight up there. When it went out of control, when it was off course, because it is not billions of miles away, way out there, and a million times bigger than the world or anything like that, okay? That's all trickery in the mind, okay? It's way closer, and it's inside of the firmament, according to ancient cosmological sources, okay? Anyways, so the sun went out of control. It transgressed its boundaries. Phaeton's trying to control it, but he can't. He gets down too low, and he burns the earth and scorches it as he rides around. And then those periods of extreme heat are followed by periods of extreme cold, just like we talked about in this ancient account, in this Greek myth, right? In this legend of something that actually did happen physically up there in our sky, and the people witnessed it and experienced it and remembered it and talked about it for years and decades and ages to come, eventually having to write it down, you know, and it made its way into our stories and stuff, and it became an extended version of the telephone game, where you whisper into someone's ear and they whisper that same thing to someone else's ear, and pretty soon the story changes so much that it's hard to know what originally was said. Okay, these are our myths and our legends. The cool thing is what we can do in the modern world is we can compare all of those end results of the telephone game, and we can find all of those similarities, and we can reconstruct and reverse engineer our history to see what really happened or was more likely to have been the story, if that makes sense, right? So that's the story of Phaeton, the son of Helios, when the sun actually started to act strange and weird, and it transgressed its boundaries. That was the fall of Phaeton, right? As we see up here. All right, let me check my notes again real quick. Oh, let's see. We did talk about Huitzilopochtli. If you ever see those images of like the people holding the magnifying glasses, I put a couple of images of people holding magnifying glasses. Oftentimes God is represented, whenever God is represented as an evil being, because sometimes people see God as being good, God as being evil, etc. But whenever people depict God as like a bully holding a giant magnifying glass and burning ants or insects or whatever, just like in the Black Hole Sun video, I put a picture of Bart Simpson that's going to appear somewhere over here. That's what's happening. That's exactly what's happening, is the light rays are being focused and they start to burn the earth and they scorch the earth and it turns blue. The Hopi prophecy also is a good one. And I just want to reiterate why it does this, because it becomes more focused up above our world, that light source that's spiraling around. And because that light is spiraling around, that plasma is spiraling around our world, that's why you see every single luminary in our sky also spiraling around in the exact same way, right? You would think that some things would just spiral a different way and go some other way. And modern academics has reinterpreted all of this and come up with a completely inverse story. Okay, the wizards, warlocks, and witches that run this world have cast a spell over everyone, either to their, you know, for our detriment or theirs or whatever. I don't know if they truly believe these stories of modern academics and modern cosmology and stuff, but it matters not if they believe it or if they know the truth or not. What matters is that it's inverse to the old ways. It's inverse to, it's the opposite of the truth, essentially. It's lies. It's really, I'm trying to be nice about it, but I might as well just say they're lying. Okay, it's not true. I don't know if they're lying on purposefully, or if they have access to the truth. I don't know. But what I do know is that my studies indicate that there is a completely different story that's happening. I forgot what I was going to talk about. Let me jump in the chat real quick. The Last Generation says, no one tells this story like JayDreamerZ. Hey. One day in the future, his book will be one of our children's children and read and used to interpret the signs and the wonders of the cycle. I love this channel. Wow, that was really nice to read. What a good comment. I like that. Thank you. Man, I'm kind of, I don't know if my face is turning red, but that was, that's an honor. Yes, many of our stories that we tell now will become, you all will become the patriarchs and matriarchs of the future world society, of the new world, the new age that we go into. People will speak of your legends, of even just something mundane, even something average, like watching me right now on a live stream, or me on the other side, live streaming and having all access to all this technology and equipment and all this stuff. It will be unbelievable to those who survive the apocalypse, to your children's children's children, they will love to hear about the most boring things that you consider to be your daily routine. Okay, things that you take completely for granted will blow their ever-living minds out of the waters. They will gather around you at campfires in the future as you talk about ironing your clothes and doing laundry. Or you know what I mean? Like you'll have to explain this all to them because they won't understand the concepts, right? And you might even have to use cartoonified versions of what we do today to build bridges so that they can even comprehend it. Right? Let's see. What else we got? Unlearn the System says, I was watching the documentary about New Zealand and... Hold on, let me make it so I can put your comments up on the screen. I don't know if I'm done with the presentation, but now I'm feeling more relaxed so that I can hang out with the chat, which I like to do, as you know. So, let me do that. Boom, real quick. What do you think? Wow, 396 people are watching too. All right, hold on. I'm going to fix this up so I can put your comments on the screen. Because I like to share. This is not me. This is all of us. We're all experiencing these things together. And we will experience them together. And we're headed into a time when coming together is helping us the most. Oh, that reminds me. Speaking of coming together and experiencing the same things together, I had my son watch the movie... Time Machine last night. The H.G. Wells Time Machine remake. Hold on, let me see if this works. Oh, it does work. Right on. How cool. I love putting your comments up there. It's so fun. Now, in this movie Time Machine, which I have not done on my Truth in Movies yet, which I probably might. In this movie, this dude goes so far into the future, and my son called this out without me having to point it out to him. He went so far into the future with this time machine that it looked like he went into the past. Right? He goes, eventually the future becomes the past. And the past is our future. Okay? Eventually, when we get so far into the future that we go through an apocalyptic cycle and the world's atmosphere depressurizes and all of these things happen that we're talking about, we will be thrown back into a stone age or an age of stone or the age when stone is created. And things are petrified and the earth is terraformed and whatnot. And we have to live on cliffs, just like in the movie, on the sides of cliffs and mountains and stuff to hide from the monsters that will be in our world at that time, right? And other things too. The movie was so mind-blowing. The dude went so far into the future that he ended up in the past. You know what I mean? All right. What's up, Commander Hector? Good to see you. Joe Cool says, Earth Wisdom asked Jay, is the artwork on your upcoming book AI generated art? No. I would ask, does it matter? As long as it gets the point across, you know what I mean? I have no idea like what the motive behind that question is. I do know we live in a fallen world and people have not so good motives usually. But I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely going to make the cover of the book AI generated because I'd like to make it myself and I'm not the best artist. So yes, I don't know. Right now, there's no AI generated art in the book as of yet. But if I feel like putting it in there, I super will. Because I'm not one of those people that's all like, AI sucks and, it's taking our jobs and whatever. Like, I already know. I've read the story. Okay, I know it's happening. I know it's going to happen as far as that whole thing goes. Hopefully, that's not something that would deter someone from reading valuable information. I hope. Anyways, Atlas G. What's up, Atlas? Says, Jay, do you think that the myths and the legends are different perspectives on the current cycle's history or surviving history from a variety of past cycles? Good question. I believe that the myths and the legends are both they are both prophetic in nature. They are predictive in nature. Every myth and every legend will happen. It's going to happen because it's cyclical. And inversely, every single myth and every single legend has already happened in the distant past. Also, we need to consider that the time we live in now is a legendary time in and of itself. All we need in order for our regular modern age that we're used to, that we don't think is that big of a deal, all we need is a change in circumstances, a change in atmosphere, a change in environment. And all of a sudden, you will be cast as a character in future movies. And people will think that your life is just legendary and amazing. Rare Breed, Lady Phoenix, what's up? Says, Jay, I think my grandson's 4th grade teacher might watch your channel. Okay, sweet. He did have to sneak some of this info into his mainstream lessons. Really? Wow, that's kind of cool. That's an honor. And it's an honor to have 400 people watching right now. That's, man, I'm so honored to be a part of this little journey with everyone. Melody Maloney says, Jay, have you watched Messiah 2030? No, that does not sound familiar. Woodworking Gunny Bear, what's up, man? Says Jay, our truck was hit by plasma apocalypse, just dropped it off at the shop. Interesting. We actually had lightning hit. We've been having these crazy storms, and you're going to see more of this, but the lightning was just hitting the ground so much yesterday here in Colorado. Like it was the type that let out these huge flashes, brilliant white flashes of light, instantly followed by a bang and a boom. So I know that it was hitting the ground all over the place. Which is something that we can expect too as we get closer and closer. The energy will amplify in this world, and you'll see it amplify, and you'll see that amplification of energy manifest in various ways. One of those ways is more electricity up in the atmosphere as the pressure builds and stuff. All right, let's see who else we got in the chat. I'm just kind of hanging out in the chat now. New Incan Empire says, JayDreamerZ, do you know why the sky was full of violet purple a couple of weeks ago? No, I don't. I didn't see any violet purple here in Colorado. I live in the Andes, South America. I've never seen the sky so purple as the sun went down. Magical. I believe you. And I will also say that these are the types of things you're going to see more of as time goes forward. Okay, so you're going to see more intense auroras that will reach down from the northern limitations. They will also transgress, right? Usually the northern lights and the aurora borealis. And somebody was asking me about the aurora australis, which is the southern lights as well. They're one and the same. They're connected to each other. So as you see the northern lights reach further down, and keep in mind, it's going to fluctuate. Okay. So it's going to go way far away, and then you won't see any northern lights for a while, but then it'll come way back and forth, just like a wave. You know what I mean? These cycles will happen more and more and more. So you're going to see all of these extremes starting to pop up. Good to see you too, Hector. Manifest Custom says, "Hey Jay, you came up on Sanchez yesterday, hoping for a collaboration." Right on, that's cool. Hey, you know what? I might as well give a shout out real quick. For those of you who are interested, I want to share some information. I told you I was invited to be a guest. Jaron Campanella of JayDreamerZ and Witsit Gets It, Austin from Witsit Gets It, they officially invited me, and I'm honored, and big thank you to them. They invited me to be a guest at their next summit. That's an online summit that you can attend. Basically, they have all of these, truther superstars, I'll call them affectionately, that are all showing up. And it's an online summit, so you don't have to go drive to, some crazy state or country that's way far away, and you don't have to have $1 million or nothing. It's all online, and we're all going to be gathering there together. I'll just give some shout outs to these names. They're still putting some stuff together, but this is from an email that I have from Witsit. And it says that there's going to be music by Crumb. Jaron obviously is going to be a speaker. Clara, Dr. Barre, Brandon Bigzib, Old World Florida, myself, David Avocado Wolf. I'm also going to be on the Q&A panel. There's going to be a Q&A, so you can just ask all of us on the panel. David Weiss is going to be on the panel, Jaron, Austin, Avocado. There's going to be music by Foundering. David Parker and Dawn Lester will be there. Iru Lenducci, Austin Thompson. There will be a lunch and a raffle. There's going to be, I'm just kind of reading the schedule, Justin Harvey, Caleb and Derek, and Santos Bonacci. All of us. And Witsit himself will also be there too. That's open to change. Okay. I'm not in charge of it. I'm just letting you know I will be there. I'm honored to be there. And I'm going to start selling tickets. I have a code, a special code if you would like. I'll give you the code right now. It is Jay, and the number 50, all together, all one word. So J50, that gets you, it looks like a half off. I think that's a 50% off code. So that way you can attend the summit. And I get paid if you use my code, obviously. And you get to be there for the Q&A. You can ask all of us questions and answers and stuff. You get to participate in the entire summit and everything. I'll have a lot more information once it's all kind of put together and finalized. But you can expect that, I think, towards the end of this month, if I remember correctly. I don't know. I'm going to go get all the information together, and then I'm going to do like a special live stream so that I can give you all the info. But I am one of the speakers, so I just wanted to, put the information out there, let you know what's going on, and it's going to be a good time. All right, jumping back into the chat. Not really here says we need to hit the like button. Hey, which number of like were you? Which one were you? Let's see. As long as you hit the like button, that's all that really matters. To Joy now. Right on. Good to see you. Nice flower. Sam Webb. What's up, Sam? Says you're the man. Appreciate you, Sam. Melody Maloney says, let's show Jay some love. Man, you're all very kind. I super appreciate everybody. JayDreamerZ, I have some incredible photos of the purple sunsets. Right on. Humbled and honored to be here. Good to see you too, Joe Cool. How do we plan for the summer apocalypse? Oh, that's a good question. How do we plan for the summer apocalypse? Well, good question. I cannot tell you as an individual how to plan because you have an individual life from myself. That's apart from myself. All I can do is give you vague little tips that may or may not be effective for you. You know what I mean? The best thing for each individual to do if you would like to plan for the apocalypse, whatever apocalypse you're planning for, is to consider your local geography. Okay. What is around you right now where you live? You know what I mean? I can't tell you, well, hey, you should drive up to Manitou and, go to that one cave that's down there in Manitou at the base of the Colorado Rockies because you probably don't live there. You know what I mean? So I would say, like, take into consideration your environment. Or as the Ninja Turtles say, a true ninja is a master of himself and his environment. So master your environment. Do research on what, where you live, what kind of soil your house rests upon, if you have a basement or not, if you have something that you can use or a place you can go to escape the sunlight. All of the things that I'm talking about, you have to consider as an individual. It's very difficult for somebody, and beware when people start telling you what to do in the apocalypse and stuff. Okay. I really try to stay away from all of that because it's up to you. It's not up to me. I'm going to survive. I intend on surviving, and I've been following my path and the breadcrumbs that I've been given throughout my life. So I feel pretty confident about where I'm going and where I'm headed. And I don't want to be, I don't want to take advantage of so many people that might just believe every single thing that I say, or people that look up to me or whatever, and I don't want to lead them astray or anything. So what I will tell you is to search out for yourself, your local environment, things you need to do. You know what I mean? Like if you know that you're not in good shape, and you probably should get in better shape. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. If you have a more specific question, I could probably help you out. But in general, take yourself into consideration and take your surroundings into consideration. All right. Let's see. We got Sogio. What's up, Sogio? Says, I got a huge shout out on Bro Sanchez. Oh, that's cool. I vibe with Bro Sanchez. I like his channel. I like him, really. And man, he brings up some stuff that's really, really similar. So I vibe with that. I like that. So big shout out to Bro Sanchez. He's cool. I think he was actually at the last summit last year. The same one I was talking about. Let's see. Last night with Jason Bashir's people in the chat were giving several good compliments to your channel. Wow. Well, thank you all over there at Bro Sanchez TV. I super appreciate you. All right, cool. Let's see what else we got. I'm trying to catch up in the chat. I don't even know if that was the end of the presentation, but now I'm just talking, but that's totally fine with me. What do we got? My older sons have been talking more and more about your content. Really? I'm humbled, honestly. The Bible. And so they said last night, Dad, there sure are a lot of movies coming out about the end of the world. That's a fact. Sure are. All right, we got Thomas Lambros who says, Jay, so even my sons notices. Last night we watched The Devil Conspiracy. You might enjoy that one. Hey, if you have movie recommendations, I've created a space in my community tab where you can actually put some, share your recommendations for the movies. You could just do your own movie breakdown if you want to and put it into the community section. You could point out all the things that you've seen in there. So just in case I don't cover that particular movie, it's recorded. You know what I mean? Share the information. Linda was like number 167. I appreciate that, Linda. Thank you so much for sharing your like. The flower was from my garden. Oh, that's cool. That's very nice. It looks just like the emojis. Let's see. Coriander, what's up? Says, listening to this amazing presentation while driving to enjoy the surf. Right on. Good to have you. What's the website? I don't know yet. I don't know. I haven't been really told. I think they're still working on the website, honestly. So they're still working on like the website, and they're still working on the video advertisements or whatever for it and stuff like that. Still kind of putting some stuff together. So as soon as I have like the solid, boom, here's the website, here's the information, I will give it to you. But as of right now, I don't know what it is. I'm just, whatever I have, I'm sharing it with you. So that's all I know at this particular moment. But I promise I will tell you as soon as I know. And I'll probably put a post in the... How cool. I like the little wooden Groot. Where's my Groot? I think my Groot's over on my little nightstand. Says, Jay sparked me up to my skills. Now, years later, I learned to hunt, to grow food, to preserve, to store food, trained a dog to track, have seed bank that lasts years. Wow, that's amazing. That's super cool. I'm an honor to be a little part of that. Derek Smith says, great prepping advice. Thank you so much, man. Like here's the thing. People, especially those who have, well, I don't want to say that. Some people need to be told what to do. They need orders. Otherwise, they feel lost. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to be independent. You know what I mean? Like, they might walk away from evil or bad or whatever, but they still need some sort of a command to replace that. And so that's oftentimes you'll see people who are like basically asking me to command them. And that's not in my nature. Okay. It's not in my nature to tell others what to do or how to live their lives, but to just be a light and to shine. So hopefully that light helps out. Finichin Finn says, Jay, you truly have a brilliant mind, mate. Thanks for your content. Lord Jay, I'm Lord Finn. Same plot in Scotland. Oh, that's sweet. You got a little plot of land in Scotland? That's tight. I have my lordship certificate up on my wall in my bedroom. That's so fun. That's the only reason I did it, because it's so fun just to have that. Plus I would like to go there someday too, hopefully. All right, cool. Let's see. All right, now what I'm going to do here is some of us are betas. I'm a beta. I'm totally a beta. I don't like being an alpha. I'm not gruff like that. But I love that we have them. I love all of it. We need some alphas. We need some betas. We need the gammas and the deltas and all that, you know? It's a family thing. I sound like the Fast and the Furious. It's a family thing. I can't do it. My Toretto or whatever. It's a family. I can't do it. No, forget it. All right. All right. So we're pretty... Let me just make sure. I feel like I missed a bunch of stuff. Does anybody have any questions about the presentation? That's what I should ask. Because if you do, that might actually help me. So we have the terrestrial light. Okay. This is the Christ. I'm trying to bring myself back on track now. I love hanging out with everybody. I love talking in the chat so much, but I don't want to get distracted too much. So we have the terrestrial light. We have the Christ light. Okay. This is the light of the world. It's literally the light from the world, the light that comes up out of the world. That's hard for people to understand. It's hard for people to imagine because we're not taught plasma physics and stuff. And our educational system that we are presented with in general is a joke. And it's designed to make you a slave. That's it. It's not designed to make you a genius. It's not designed to, make you independent or anything. It's the exact opposite. So it's no surprise that they are teaching you the opposite of things that are of import, things that are valuable, and things that are valuable are things that will add to your life or extend your life or make your life better. Okay. They're not teaching you that. They're teaching you how to make other people's lives better and easier. That makes you a slave. So just speaking from the heart. On the wing of abominations shall one who makes desolate, even to the consummation which is determined. Okay, so we already kind of went over that. It's really hard to understand the Bible speak, like the old King James. I understand it because I studied it for years and years and years. But I like to reinterpret that in my own words, in J-speak, so that it's easier for you. I like to paint a picture in your mind so that you can better understand that old Shakespearean type of language or whatever. So hopefully that helps out too. All right, where's my chat? I just lost my chat. Oh, there it is. All right, let's see. Let's catch up. I feel like we might wrap up soon, but we don't have to. So let me see what I got here. Daughter says, New York looked like it was going under an apocalypse. Interesting. Betas, interesting. Let's see. Cat Van Du, you may not want to command, but you are a leader. A guide. I know. Man, some of the best leaders don't want to be. You know what I mean? We don't really want to be. We don't want to lead anybody. We want you to lead yourselves. We want you to handle your business and to be confident in and of yourself. So that's what we're doing. That's all. It's just being a light. We realize that in order to lead, all we need to do is just shine the light, right? Just shine the light so other people can see the path. And then pretty soon, as they start to see the path, they start to glow. They have a light on the inside. And then they realize that they can get further from my light. They can branch off and they can use their own light to light their own path. And then once they walk that path and they gain confidence through experience, then their light will shine even brighter. And then pretty soon, they're JayDreamerZ, or they're, Santos Bonacci, or they're Bro Sanchez, or they're, you know what I mean? Like they will exceed us. Their light will exceed ours. And they'll continue off in their own direction until eventually the light is everywhere. Man, sounds so nice. Let's see. Okay, there's hey, Joe Cool. Thanks for putting people's questions out there. I appreciate it. That's pretty awesome. JJ Organics asked JayDreamerZ, or JJ Organics, who is a member. Thank you. Says JayDreamerZ, I just watched the last part of Manifest on Netflix, and they put a blue beam in it that calls all of the passengers of 828 to it. And I thought of you, the JayDreamerZ beam. Oh, that's cool. I don't think that's a question, but that is cool, and I'm honored that you thought of me. Derek Smith says, Jay, knowing yourself is important. We all need to know each other. Well said. Well said. Love from Scotland. Who was that? I missed it. The chat skipped. Sorry. Let's see. Daughters of Lilith says, Jay, the Good Vibe Tribe will assemble post-apocalypse apocalypse like the Justice League. Yes, that's cool. Thomas Lambro says, I saw... Let's see. Okay, that's just on the side there. AM1 says JayDreamerZ probably falls into the Sigma definition. Possibly. Okay. All right. I think that might be it. I feel like I missed some stuff. So if I did, I'll be sure to, we'll come back to the topic another time. I did want to comment on all these pictures. Actually, let's do that. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not ending. We're not stopping. We're going to take a quick break. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to take a very quick break so I can get a little bit more coffee. Check on my boy who's downstairs cleaning his room and maybe watching, I don't know. And I'm going to come back because what I want to do is I'm going to take control of all these pictures and I'm just going to comment on all of them as we go because they've been flashing this whole time. I hope that you've made some connections with many of these pictures, but I would like to continue engaging in the chat. Maybe we'll go for about 20 more minutes or so. And I'm just going to rapid fire. I'm going to shoot. These pictures are just going by on their own. I'm going to stop all that and I'm going to go through myself so that I can comment on them because that's why I have them up there basically. All right. So let's take a real quick break. Then we're going to come back and spend a little bit more time together and then we'll wrap things up for another time. And I will be choosing a movie tonight to break down for our Truth in Movies that we're going to do on Sunday night. So make sure to bring your popcorn for that. And I'm going to play a little intermission real quick and we'll be right back.
Around the world men's thoughts will fly, quick as the twinkling of an eye, and waters shall great wonders do. How strange, and yet it shall come true. Beneath the water men shall walk, shall ride, shall sleep, shall even talk, and in the air men shall be seen in white and black and even green. For in those wondrous far-off days the women shall adopt a craze to dress like men in trousers wear, and to cut off their locks of hair. They'll ride astride with brazen brow as witches do. On broomsticks now there'll be a sign for all to see. Be sure that it will certain be. And love shall die and marriage cease, and nations wane and babes decrease, as wives shall fondle cats and dogs, and men live much the same as hogs. Pictures alive with movements free, boats like fishes beneath the sea. When men like birds shall scour the sky, then half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. Then half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. For those who live this century through, in fear and trembling this shall do. Flee to the mountains and the dens, to bog and forest and wild fens. For storm will rage and oceans roar, when Gabriel stands on sea and shore. And as he blows his wondrous horn, old worlds die and new be born. Fiery dragon will cross the sky 6 times before this earth shall die. Mankind.
All right, let's jump back into sharing some of these pictures. Splash the popcorn. I love that. All right, cool. So check this out. This is the after party. Okay, this is the after show or whatever. I still have so that I can see people's comments. Snowflake says we're all on our individual journeys. Jay is just here to point us in the right direction. See you all there. Well, thank you. I'm honored that you feel that way. Thank you so much. All right, cool. So check this out. Oh, bars. I got bars. That's funny. I do have bars. These ones, right? These bars over here. All right, cool. Now, let me just stop all these slideshow action. I'm going to stop these, and we're going to start. Should we start with the Christ or the Antichrist? Let's take a vote. I'm going to look at the first 10 answers. You want to start with this side, the Antichrist, or do you want to start with the Christ side? Did I stop it? I did. Ghostbusters. Look at that, the afterlife. All right, let's see. I'm just gonna look at the chat. I'm gonna start doing a lot more like taking polls and stuff in my community section, and I'm gonna start asking many of you more. I want to get you guys more involved here. All right, so which one do you want to start off with? The Antichrist explanation and talking about that, or the Christ side? Also, if you have questions, please do put them into the chat. Okay. Specifically questions. Smoking Truth TV says, what's up, Jay? I love your work. I've been making my way through your playlists, and I tend to just sit in the background, taking it all in. I have to say you're one of the nicest people on YouTube. Well, thank you. I accept. I have my bad moments in my personal life and in real life or whatever, but you know what? Don't we all, right? We all do. It's a crazy time that we live in, so I'm honored. I'm honored that you see the good in me. And I also will strive to see the good in myself. Sam Quinn says, could the Antichrist would be AI? No, AI is something totally different than what we're talking about. But I can see why you would think that. Gen2 Gone, thank you for your little donation. I super appreciate it. A little super sticker. A little fox. That's not a fox. That's a dog, right? I forgot what the name of that dog is. It's either... No, that's not a fox. That's a... What are those little tiny dogs? Those little dogs with little curly tails. They're smart. They're very smart. All right. Let's see. What we're going to do. I see. All right. Let's see. The votes. The votes are coming in. I'm mostly seeing Christ, Antichrist, anti. Boom. It's going to be anti. We're going to start with the anti side. It doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? But let's start with that one. So we're going to start over here on the Antichrist side. First and foremost, up there, you see how I put like the blue circle that represents the sun, the blue star, Kachina, which is why it's called a blue star, right? Which is the biggest star in our sky. The biggest focal point in our sky is the sun itself. The sun is changing color. It will change color. So let's just start wherever we are right now. I'm not choosing this image. It just happens to be where it is. And we're going to discuss all of these real quick. So this is the light spectrum. This over here is our sun. This represents our sun a long time ago. It was more red. Then as you start getting into like, the modern age, it was yellow. That's why we associate the sun with being the color yellow. And most people will grab a yellow crayon to draw the sun, because this was the last color that we remember it being before it hits this modern sunlight, which is white, changing and shifting into blue. This is going to happen faster and faster. This right over here, all of that spectrum, that lasted a very long time. But our time cycle is like a pendulum, okay? It gets faster and faster until it hits the bottom, which is the neutral point, and then it'll slow down. So once you hit that golden age, everything will slow down. You'll get to experience the golden age for a longer time, right? Right now, time is speeding up. And it's not just time that's speeding up, like the heavenly luminaries that are going faster and faster, and we have less daylight as well. But also we have exponential entropy, which is causing things to lose energy at a quicker rate. And we live during a time of energetic decline exponentially, which means it's happening faster and faster and faster and faster. Okay. So that also is affecting our lifespans, which is how we sort of perceive time, like how long time lasts, right? I don't like it. I'm not a fan. I can't wait for the apocalypse because I don't want to get all old and wrinkly and start falling apart. Some people out there can relate to that. You know what I mean? I have a midlife crisis every day, like since I started realizing that my body was falling apart and stuff and degrading probably when I was like 33. Yeah. I'd say 33. I clearly remember that because that's when Jesus died and all this other 33 symbolism. And I remembered, I got like my first gray hair. You can see there's a bunch now, right? Anyways, I look forward to regeneration, which is the opposite of entropy. Okay. So we will go into a time that is regenerative, and time itself will slow down. You will get to experience. This is one of the benefits of making it, right? Finishing the race and getting there. So I don't recommend, doing anything bad to your body because you just are depressed and full of anxiety and you just want to give up and stuff. Hang in there because the benefits that you will reap will far outweigh any crap that you've been through during this cycle. Okay. So that's why I hold on. That and, my boy. I have my little boy, thankfully. Anyways, this is the sun cycle. Okay. This is what it looks like. Starts off red. This is why you see on the ancient flags, like the Japanese flag and specifically, right? They have that red sun with the red sunbeams that come out of it sometimes. And then the sun spectrum started to change. It started to become closer to the white. So as we got closer to the white, more colors were introduced into this world. As it starts to get more into the blue, we will have less colors. So this one right here, when it's pure white, that's when you have the most and the highest color spectrum. It's also getting hotter and hotter and hotter, which is why the stars reciprocate this. And they teach this in modern academics that the stars way out there in the galaxy, the blue ones are the hottest stars, which is weird because we tend to associate blue with a cooler temperature, but it's the opposite. Red is actually the coolest temperature. And that has to do with how focused the light is, basically. Let's see here. This is the story of the blue star Kachina from the Hopi. It says that the Sakwasoha refers to a spirit that will appear in the form of a blue star to signify the beginning of the new world. According to some guy, the blue star is the 9th sign in the day of purification. When the apocalypse happens, specifically when the world depressurizes, okay? Or any time that the blue beams shoot up out of the terrestrial earth. It purifies our world. Okay. We go through a purification day. So things are pretty bad right now, but the world will be purified. It has to, it must, which is a prophecy that predicts that the world will end, or the world as we know it will end, in a catastrophic way. It will happen when the blue star, as we talked about, also known as the Sakwasoha, comes back to dance in the plaza. The plaza is Main Street Earth, which is the North Pole, which is Mount Meru, which is the seat of God, or the seat of the Lord, you could say. Enki, Okay, the Lord of the Earth, etc., the Lord of the Waters. Enki is also depicted. I don't have pictures of Enki up right now, but Enki is an interesting figure, as is Enlil. But Enki is depicted as waters flowing out of this godlike figure or whatever, and the god of the waters and the god of restoration and regeneration and stuff like that. And anyways, this blue star will dance in the plaza. He will remove his mask, as we talked about, to initiate the purification process. As soon as this happens, there's more to the story. There are these pure white brothers from space, these space brothers that the Hopi refer to them as, and they are pure white because they come from the heavens. They come from up there in the place where there's no sunlight to bake us and to affect our skin and to turn us darker and stuff like that. So they're up there out in the heavenlies or whatever. So it's not just humanoids, but animals and creatures and insects and all those things that fall down from above tend to be white in nature. That's why so many different tribal cultures talk about these holy, sacred animals that descend from the sky or fly down from the sky, and they are always white. Okay, these harbingers in the form of these cosmic animals that descend. That's why Jesus comes back on a white horse, etc. Huitzilopochtli. We talked about this, the Aztec god of the sun, the blue god holding on to some plasma, like a blue plasma snake, which is him burning the earth and stuff. He's also like a war god too. So when you see these changes happening physically to our local cosmology or our local world, right? Our world that we live in, we go through changes. So you can associate this God with war, with us going through war, because the energy becomes amplified right before the end, and everything starts to become agitated, I should say. Okay? Agitation can be good or it can be bad, but the world becomes agitated. And unfortunately, most of the world is under the influence of the stars and the sun and stuff like that. And there's a lot of pressure on us, actual physical pressure on us. And the people become agitated and they go to war with one another. Ultimately, they can't take it any longer. They cannot hold on to their peace, and their inner spirit energy is amplified to the point where they just start warring with one another. Huitzilopochtli got different versions, but you always know it's him because he'll be the Aztec blue god with the black face, or the dark face. The hummingbird god as well. So it's also Huitzilopochtli is portrayed as a hummingbird because the hummingbird moves so quickly. Okay, so the sun is it's speeding up right now as we speak, going in circles. Matthew. So this is an interesting quote. Jesus in Matthew 24, verse 15 through 16, and Mark 13, 14 says, "So when you see the abomination of desolation, or the abomination, the thing that is not the true light, when you see that, and it's causing things to become empty or desolate," right? Like people won't be in the major cities any longer. They will be hiding underground. They will be in their houses or underground in structures that cannot catch fire. Okay. It causes cities to become desolate, which means empty. It will empty out places as it goes. Animals will hide, people will hide. Everything's going to be hiding from the sunlight. So it is an abomination that causes desolation, spoken of by the prophet Daniel, which means God is my judge. When you see that standing in the holy place of the earth is Mount Meru. Let the reader understand. And Mount Meru goes by many names. Sumeru, Mount Meru, Mount Sinai, Mount Olympus, so many other sacred mountains, right? And then it says, let the reader understand. That's a little wink, okay? That's a biblical wink. Like this was common knowledge, but I know that there will come a time when common knowledge won't be so common. It says, when this happens, flee to the mountains. Get to the mountains. So people ask me what my tip is for surviving. Listen to those who came before. Listen to our wise instructors. I don't care if they were real people or not. Listen to those echoes that have been passed down through us, those breadcrumbs that have been tossed onto our path that will lead us home. Listen to those. Consider all of them because they tell us what to do. They give us ways to prepare and what to do. We have instructions for those of you who need them. They are everywhere to be found. This is a movie called Blue Sunshine. This is really interesting. In this movie, I've not seen the movie, but it says, try to remember your life may depend on it. See that down there at the bottom? Try to remember your life may depend on it. So in this movie that called Blue Sunshine, people start losing their hair. Something's going on with the sun or whatever, and they become homicidal maniacs. Also a theme you will see in our world when fantasy becomes reality once again. And there is no clear distinction between the two, which is already happening if you're paying attention. People will become psychotic. They already are, but I'm talking about to an extreme degree so that martial law has to be implemented and evil will be commonplace, more so than it is right now, okay? And if you have goodness in you, you'll have to be very careful about sharing that goodness because your goodness will be seen as evil. The world will be flipped on its head. You will be persecuted, hunted, murdered, killed, laughed at, made fun of, all the bad stuff that, that used to happen to evil people will happen to the good people. Okay, I promise. And it's because the energy will be amplified. People will become plasma possessed through the energy in our world that is already existent. Imagine whenever all that red plasma comes in. But people become psychotic and they justify evil. And the system itself will protect them. It already is. I know personally. This is from, what's that show called? Is it Phoenix? Man, I can't remember, but there's this really popular, no, it's not Phoenix. What is it? What is this from? You guys know what this is from, right? This symbol? I forget. It's something bird, not hummingbird, not Phoenix. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a cool show. Anyways, then this one's called Prisoners of the Sun. You can see this dude's all blue. He's got the blue light around him. When does war and murder begin? Right? It's all correlates with the sun turning blue, with the light of our world turning blue and getting hotter and the energy in our world becoming more and more amplified. We did this movie down. We did do a Truth in Movies on this one. This is a lesser known movie, but damn, this is a good flick. Okay? This movie has a lot of really interesting stuff. I don't know why it's not as popular. Maybe because it doesn't have popular actors and actresses or whatever. But in this movie, the sun, gets to a point where people can't go outside in the daytime anymore. They have to be up at night. They can't go outside and do things during the daytime, which is what's going to happen too. Into the night, obviously, there's different versions of this, but the people have to stay out of the sun. They have to stay out of the sunlight. They have to only go out at nighttime. So these people actually follow the sun around in circles, right? Staying behind the sun so they don't end up like this guy from the Chronicles of Riddick on crematoria, right? Same type of symbolism. Here's what crematoria looks like on the surface. So you can see there, it sort of has like a blue light to it or whatever, and it just burns the surface everywhere it goes. Knowing with Nick Cage obviously shows the sun destroying the world at the end. So it's showing you one apocalyptic cycle, and it's not showing you the flood cycle. So Waterworld would be like an example with Kevin Costner. Waterworld would be like an example of the water cycle, of the flooding and stuff like that. Right on. Thanks for your support, Joe Cool. Appreciate you. All right, cool. What else we got here? So here's knowing where the sun just destroys and scorches the earth as it goes. Follow the sun, obviously staying behind the sun, staying in the nighttime, staying in the darkness. It's also referred to affectionately as the midnight sun because it will get so dark, but the sun will still be out. Because daylight itself will be so small, you'll be able to look over and see the sun, but it will be nighttime where you are. That's how small daylight will be. You'll see a blue sun, which turns into like a blue ring. If you look up towards the north, you can see the sun will be out, but it will be dark where you are. That's how small daylight will get. So sometimes they'll refer to it as the midnight sun or whatever. They showed this. We broke this down in the Pitch Black, the movie Pitch Black, where you have the transition from the red sun to the blue sun. The Death Star also, right? That's the sun becomes the Death Star, where it focuses all of that light and all that energy and destroys the planet. I just thought this was funny from Mario, where the sun's trying to kill you. That's today. We know subconsciously that the sun is dangerous, right? That the sun is, it does two different things. It becomes what they call, like in academics, they refer to all of this symbolically as like a white dwarf or whatever, or I forgot what they call it when it turns blue and it's really small, or the red giant, right? The red giant is what we will experience. I would be doing a thing on the red giant if we lived in the opposite age. However, we probably wouldn't have the technology that we have today. I would just be communicating telepathically, but I would be talking about how the sun will get big and red one day, which is be the opposite of becoming small and blue. Okay, so that's the opposite, but it's not relevant to what we're going to experience next, which is why I decided to do this instead of the red giant. Excuse me. Exploding sun. Boom. So that's pretty interesting. They also have like little dome symbolism right here too. But any movie where they're showing you that the sun is destroying things, any myth or legend where they talk about the sun falling or scorching the earth and getting too close to the earth and scorching it has happened, and it will happen again. This is from a movie called Moon, which is really interesting. The sun and the moon both start going off course and acting different and stuff. And they show you the sun right here is blindingly blue and white. This is exactly what you see if you take a picture of it today. So in the movie, they're saying this is what it looks like right before it goes off course. So you can expect this to happen soon. We talked about how the energy is focused and it starts to melt things. It's also reciprocated in the black hole sun video with these kids burning ants or grasshoppers or whatever it was. This is going to be the sign. One sign, one of the many signs that you will look for. When you see the sun starting to look like that, not good. Okay, so it's best to get ready. It's best to at least prepare yourself mentally for when this happens and when you see these signs and these omens that will appear in our sky. This is also why you have these eclipses and conjunctions that the movies are showing us that lead to these apocalyptic cycles, because everything makes its way north. Everything will circle and spiral until it hits a neutral point in like a toroidal field, which would be like the middle. It will spiral into the middle and then it'll reverse, and time will reverse and everything will go into the golden age and the opposite of what we have now. Instead of the earth charging energy, which means it's pulling energy in, which means it's siphoning energy from the surface where we live down into the core or the hollows, it will push it back out. It will share it with us and with the rest of the world. This is just an image. It's funny. I took this image. The earth was all like curved and stuff like that, so I had to fix it. I actually took this. This is Photoshop. I photoshopped this picture, which is obviously Photoshop, but I had to I went in and I had to flatten it out and curve it or whatever. Oh, also many people wonder, and I take this as a compliment, but because I have an alternative cosmology does not mean that I am a part of any specific group. Just like because I have goodness inside of me does not mean that I am a part of any specific religion. Although I am honored that people believe that I am and they see me as such. In the New Testament of the Bible, there is a character named Saul who sees this beam of light. It actually wraps around him. He sees the light and he changes his name to Paul, right? Which means like a pole or a pillar and stuff like that too. And this guy, once he saw the light, wherever he went, because he traveled sharing this good news, that people don't have to be evil and bad. He shared this with many heathen nations, with the pagans and the heathens and all this stuff. And every place he came to, they almost thought that he was one of them. They accepted him as being a part of their own until he started talking, and then they realized, wow, this guy's on some other stuff. But they thought at first that he was just like them. They thought he was their religion. They thought he was their people and stuff. And it's an honor for myself and probably those like me, or with a like energy signature like me. It is an honor when others ask me hey, Jay, are you a Christian? For example, I get that all the time. Are you a Christian? No, but yes, right? No, as in the Christianity of the world or the Islam of the world. It could be any religion. It could be Hinduism. It could be anything. People recognize that there are similarities. They recognize there's a similar energy signature that's happening, and it's similar to the good parts of what they already believe in. So I take that as an honor that people ask me hey, do you believe in this like I do? Because they're not sure. They think I might, but they don't. The problem is they don't see it for what it is. If they did, they wouldn't have to ask. And this gets it kind of deep, in the Bible, when Jesus died and he was resurrected and he took on a different bodily form, and his disciples were walking with him and they didn't recognize him. And he was like, don't you recognize me? Just because I have a different face or a physical body or appearance, don't you recognize the likeness that's inside of yourself? Don't you recognize the vibe? Don't you vibe with me, basically, is what he's saying, right? And I'm not saying like I am the Jesus or anything like that. I'm just saying I vibe with that energy. I vibe with the energy of all of those wonderful teachers of times past. And I see the connectedness between all of them instead of the separateness that we call religion. I'm rambling now. I'm sorry. Let's keep going. Let's see. We already talked. All right. So we went all over the Antichrist pictures. So let's switch it up, and I'm going to go through these blue beam pictures a little quicker this time. Ghostbusters, Afterlife. So when you see this beam in the sky and a hole opens up in the sky and stuff, that is the resurrection day. That is the day of judgment. That is the day of purification. That is the day of Jubilee. That is the day when the dead will rise. Because life and abundance will fill this world to the point where there will be no death. I call it the time of no death. Okay, it's a time you cannot die. Okay, you could chop your arm off and it would crawl around all by itself. Okay, it would be infused with life. Let's see, this is just various examples of the ionized oxygen that shoots up out of the inside of the earth. Tron has it there, and if you notice that he's standing on the circular platform there too, also sort of makes like a keyhole shape, just like that. This is the center of our world. That's Atlantis right there in the middle, and the blue beam reaching up, always touching a circle in the sky above. So it's appropriate he's holding his little frisbee disc right above him. And it's also appropriate that he's doing the Atlas pose, holding his arms up straight up into the air as well. Also, on a personal note, I've been having insane dreams lately. I just remembered that. I had crazy dreams last night. Oh, and that's what I was going to mention about Time Machine too. So in Time Machine, everybody in the future was all having the same dream of this particular location and this place and stuff. I think this is happening, and I think this is going to start happening more and more. Hey, thanks, Ken. Super appreciate you. High five. Splashing the popcorn. Appreciate you. What did you say? It says, hey, Jay, I found my phone. Now I have 2 memberships. Is that cool with you? Yes, for sure. Thank you. That's super cool with me. I'll put your name in the credits twice or whatever membership you got. All right, cool. Thank you so much, Ken. I appreciate you. All right, so here's Fantastic Four. Once again, the blue beam. Now, sometimes it's sort of a bluish green. Sometimes it's green or whatever. It's almost never a red beam. Hardly ever. It's almost never like these other colors, red spectrum. It will be a blue spectrum beam often, I will say. The Fantastic Four, you see these pillars on either side of it too. Oh, you can't even see my little thing. So you see these pillars? Let me zoom into this. You see that? There's these pillars that shoot up on either side of this electrical charge that is going up out of the earth. That is because it pulls the earth up with it and petrifies it. And you have pillars, which are the pillars of creation at the beginning of the world, at the ends of the earth. This is the fire of the Lord. This is the whirlwind. This is the sign that people will look for after the apocalypse so that they will know where to go. They will gather in these places where these poles are, which will become cities or polises. And these are places where people will telepathically be given laws and they will understand right living. And telepathy will be reintroduced to the world as we go through another golden age. And in the nighttime, it will be seen. You'll be able to see this neon light shooting up from the ground. In the daytime, it might look different. It possibly could be vaporous. You know what I mean? I don't know. But anyways, this is all the symbolism behind these 2 blue beams up in New York. There are 2 towers becoming one. The Hyperborean electrical arc and those anode and cathode beams reaching over and hugging each other, touching each other, becoming one together. And then being separated by that central blue beam so that they are all one. This is some movie stuff. We've already kind of been through that. It looks like the Simon game too. Let's see. Godzilla, obviously. Godzilla represents the savior of the world. Okay, even though he's a monster, he's always protecting us, right? Some people, depending on their perspective, they might see Godzilla as a bad guy, but that all depends on how he affects you. He's trying to help out, but if he accidentally steps on your house, then all of a sudden he's a bad guy or whatever, right? We see that a lot in the movies too. This is also Godzilla's little beam or whatever. I don't know what that is. You'll notice the light coming out of pyramids as well. That's something we've talked about many times. Oh, there's a solar eclipse coming up April 8th, 2024, says Joe Cool. Then the next solar eclipse that can be seen from the contiguous United States will be on August 23rd. Will these things happen more, though? Possibly. Keep your eyes on the eclipses and stuff too. Also, Nostradamus talked about his drawings. In his drawings, he had these predictive drawings about the end of the world, and he had these 3 celestial bodies that went through these 3 different eclipses at the same time, just like the Great Conjunction and the Dark Crystal. Here's some more blue beam symbolism. There's going to be a lot of blue beam symbolism. Oftentimes, it will reach up. I don't know. Man, I switched it again. I did not mean to do that. All right, so these are all different blue beam symbolisms coming up out of the ground. The island at the top of the world. This is an interesting book and movie as well. The island has a central volcano. I personally believe that volcanoes are all sealed up right now for the most part. And the reason that they have lava and stuff like that is because those way down in there is where all the plasma is and stuff. And when the plasma retracts, we get lava and we get plugs and holes that plug up the entrances into the hollow recesses of our world. However, when we go through that cycle, the lava will dissipate. It will go out. These volcanoes all explode and they get sucked up into the sky and stuff like that, and they will be replaced with plasma. And these will be entrances, basically, or exit points if you want to go down back into the earth, right here where these volcanoes all are. This is from Indiana Jones. They show you the Ark of the Covenant being lifted. The lid is lifted off and the blue beam or blue light or whatever comes up out of it. More pyramids with lights coming out of them, reaching up to the sky. Ghostbusters, this is classic. He talks to the horse, which you can do. Horses, okay? All animals speak. All animals understand. They all have languages. They all feel. They have spirit and stuff. Animal literally means to have spirit and to be animated and stuff like that. So he says, wait for the sign. Then all the prisoners will be released. That's true. There will be a sign, which is the Christ light, the light of the world, where everybody will see it because it's central. And it goes up to the sky. And if you wait for that sign, the prisoners will be released. It will be the day of Jubilee, the year of Jubilee. Here's another instance of it, creating the plasma. You see how it spreads out at the top there when it touches the sky at the top? It spreads out. These are various movie references. We got like the Suicide Squad has a blue beam, Fantastic Four has a blue beam, Man of Steel has a blue beam, Transformers 3 has a blue beam, The Avengers has a blue beam, Captain America has a blue beam, Iron Man has a blue beam, another Transformers, Lord of the Rings, and many, 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 many more movies show you this so often that it's sort of a running joke on the internet. Like, hey, where's our blue beam or whatever? They're not getting that this is information that's being shown to you over and over and over because there are some entities out there that are trying to help you. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's the actual human beings, but there's an energy out there. There is a calling out there that is reaching out to those who have that good earth terrestrial blue beam energy. There is a calling. And we recognize these things. Everyone else will just take it for granted and be annoyed by it. Oh, they're always putting blue beams in the movies or whatever. I'm like, good, sweet. Like I'm learning as I see the repetition over and over and over. More blue beams coming up out of pyramids. I believe that pyramids are built on top of cavernous systems, and that they are built specifically to focus and to harness the power of these beams so that they can build little chambers inside of them so that people can go into these chambers without being blasted off into the sky or whatever, and that they can take a bath. I don't know, like they're basically showering themselves in pure energy. Okay, because I think it's cold plasma. I think that it's energy that you can stand in and be around, and it will not burn you or anything. Okay, there's cold plasmas, and I believe that's probably what these are. So they built these structures that resonate with that frequency, which is the pyramidal shape, and they built these chambers inside of those structures so that those people and their families can consistently go in there and be rejuvenated. They're rejuvenation centers. And I'm sure there's other things that they use them for, but these are houses that are built around these caverns, basically. Here's the split mountain symbolism of Mount Meru with the blue, with the energy coming up out of it. See, it's not always blue, right? Oh, hold on, let me go back. See, like this one right here. You just have to recognize it for what it is. It's not always blue, and it won't appear blue to everybody, but in general, it's ionized oxygen, which turns blue, right? Here is a same type of deal right here. You got the pillars right out front. You got these 4 witnesses down there at the bottom. Let me zoom into this. This is actually super interesting. So you have these little 4 statues down there. Those are always those 4 columns that surround Mount Meru. all the way around it, 4 columns, 4 pillars, etc. This one's a really cool cartoon I found that show you, like, this is supposed to be liquid, or I don't know if it's water or whatever, but this is symbolic of those blue beams, that terrestrial earth energy shooting up and out. This is from Hinduism. There's a story about this celestial bow. One of the most powerful weapons or artifacts in Hinduism is this bow that Vishnu wields, right? And sometimes he'll give it to, like, people who need help or whatever. But Vishnu has this celestial bow, or it's really a terrestrial bow, which is really an electrical arc around Mount Meru. And they shoot this celestial arrow that can pierce anything. And it goes up and touches the sky, and it's seen as defeating evil itself. And it's only used in the apocalyptic scenarios. Ken, thanks, Ken. Hey, behind the scenes. That's tight. I didn't know you could do that. That's cool. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate you. These are different objects that they show you that emulate that same type of thing. Now, this one is actually not, this one doesn't belong on this side. This is an example of the Antichrist beam. But it's also an example of the blue beam because it's destroying the government, okay? So both of these beams destroy the government powers, okay? Because they destroy things. This one over here destroys things physically. This one over here destroys things spiritually, okay? Or it improves them spiritually, I should say. So it destroys the evil forces or the selfish forces, etc. But that is that's the White House with the pillars and everything shooting up from it. This is from the Lord of the Rings. That one's a bluish green light that shoots up into the sky. Mysteries of the Pillar of Blue Light, which is an adventure for Odyssey and Overlords. These are games and stuff. Dungeons and Dragons, these things seep into our subconscious and we pick up on them. And so people listen. They listen to that song of the world. This is featured in video games, in books, in movies, all over the place. We see it presented to us time and time again. In Dubai, they actually changed the Burj Khalifa into a giant blue beam that has all these little branches that shoot out of it, which represents freedom, right? So here's another example with little whirlwind going around it. Oftentimes they'll show you that it is electrical in nature, spiraling up to the sky, electricity, etc. I think this is sort of repetitive, so I think we get the point pretty much. Oh, these are some really interesting, real true to life pictures too. So I don't think these are photoshopped. There is debate online as to whether or not these are photoshopped. I don't know. It's interesting nonetheless, whether or not this is actual earth energy shooting up or if it's a camera effect or whatever. I recognize it as an omen and a sign from the world. These are all the people gathering to look at the blue beam and stuff. And this is when we will sing that New Year's Eve song, right? Should old acquaintance be forgot? You have to sway from side to side when you sing that song. Like, you just got to, you need some people like the Who's in Whoville, like we're all gonna be holding hands and stuff. So if all these old ways, like that we're talking about and bringing to mind once again, if they should be forgot and never brought to mind, right? These are the days of ancient times, or Auld Lang Syne. And here the people are holding hands in front of the blue beam. Yahoo Tori, or whatever the Who's sing, right? And as above, so below. So this is happening on our surface world, and inversely underneath us in the Underdark or in the underworld or whatever on the flip side, it's also happening, right? They just experience the opposite. So while we go into this spectrum up here on the surface, we're going this way. They are going the opposite way. They're actually going this way. And their sun is turning red and getting big and slowing down and stuff like that. So they're going through the opposite over there. And that's it. That's all the pictures for today. So let me wrap that up, and we're going to say some goodbyes and roll the credits. It's been a long presentation, but I had a really good time. And I hope you all did too. Trying to figure out how to get rid of these pictures or whatever. Let's do boom and boom. All right, cool. I like to put myself right in the middle. Neutral path. I didn't want to be on this side because the Antichrist is over there, right? But I also didn't want to be like, full of myself and stick myself right where the Christ one was. And I know people watch and they break down every little thing that I do and stuff like that, right? Like every time I take a drink, they're like, oh my God, what kind of cup is that? What's going on? What's in that cup? What's going on? Anyways, thank you so much for everybody who supports my work through membership, through liking my videos, and thanks for making friends with each other, and for researching and just wanting to be better. That's all. I appreciate that about you, and I appreciate that about myself too. All right, cool. I'm going to take off now. Remember, this Sunday, we're going to do Truth in Movies. I don't know what it's going to be. I still have to pick it. And check out on my banner. Oh, you know what else I might do? Every Saturday, I'm thinking I might add this to the schedule, but I think every Saturday I'm going to do a compilation. I don't have to do any work. I'm just going to string together a compilation of maybe like a review or something, so that way you guys can have access to the live chat, talk with each other, while a compilation of prior videos plays on, you know, the live stream or whatever. It won't be live, but it will be a live presentation with a live chat. And I think I'm going to do that every Saturday. I really would like to do that, because, you know, it's less work that I have to do. I get to make more money and stuff, and you guys get to access the chat, talk to one another, continue to do exactly what we're doing today. It's just that I'm not going to be there myself. However, I will be able to jump into the chat and say what's up from time to time as well. So keep an eye out. I might do that every Saturday. I would like to do that every Saturday, and that way it can act as and serve as a reminder, right? A refresher, like, hey, here's what happened this week or whatever. So I'm going to put together these compilations and stuff too. Thanks to all those other channels out there that are giving me shout outs. I noticed a lot of people are doing TikTok videos, and they're giving me shout outs on TikTok and stuff like that. People are not like claiming all of my ideas. They're not my ideas, just, you know, but they're not like clearly like ripping off my videos and pretending to be me or nothing. Everyone's sharing my stuff, and it makes me feel amazing. It makes me feel very good. I don't know how to put that into words. So thank you. If you're on other platforms and stuff and you're sharing my work and you're talking about my channel and stuff like that, it's super an honor. It really is. All right, cool. I'm going to take off now. Let's roll those credits. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
Time to wake